Good evening. It's 7 p.m. Please rise for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll call to order this meeting of the Town Council. The first item of business before us is announcements. By way of announcements, let me remind you of the Village Improvement Society and the town's plan to jointly hold the Little Compton Community Day on August 6th at Veterans Field, starting at 12 noon with Touch-a-Truck, chicken barbecue at 4 p.m. to 6 p.m., soccer games in the afternoon 5:30 to 7:30, music from 5 to 8, food by Wilbur McMahon 8th grade class and local vendors, and finishing off the day with fireworks at 9 p.m. I can't imagine why any citizen of the town would not be able to find something in there that's attractive, and so I would encourage all of those who are able to join us for that. The rain date is the next day, which is Sunday, August 7th. The second item of announcement is not something that's in your agenda, but just an encouragement to look at the current edition of the Secana Times, which came out yesterday with today's date. And in that edition are the record of the student performance, both in Wilbur McMahon as well as elsewhere. And I would just commend to you the review of that to see how well our students are doing in their academic studies. Are there any other announcements that need to be made? The next item then is approval of minutes. First, those of July 5th for a special meeting with the planning board.
Motion to place the July 5th, 2022 special meeting with the planning board on file. If anybody has any questions or comments.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. The next is the regular council meeting of July 7th.
Same motion for the July 7th, 2022 council meeting.
Same second.
Discussion on that. All in favor? Aye. And then the July 12th special meeting of the town council.
And again, same motion, July 12th, 2022 special town council meeting.
Second again.
Discussion on that. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. The next item of business is a series of department head reports. Let me remind you that the clerk and the fire department reported at our last meeting. Tonight, the report of the tax assessor, the building department, the police department, and the town administrator. Both the police chief and the administrator are here. If there are any comments that you'd like us to hear, we'd be pleased to hear that. Nothing? Sir?
I do, Mr. President. Just a couple things. First is the town hall restoration. We did have a meeting this Monday with the contractors, and we had a total of 6 contractors that showed interest, and obviously they'll be submitting their proposals or their bids July 29th, Friday, July 29th. The lawn care management, we've been able to identify or locate someone who is state licensed applicator. That means that it can, treat our fields as appropriate as it needs to be, and has the qualifications to do it appropriately. So that gentleman has come on board. He actually already started the first application at the soccer field, the all-purpose field. So that's been done.
Was there also a acknowledgement on his part as to familiarity with irrigation systems? I
Yeah,
remembering that
yes,
correctly?
yes, there is. He also has some familiarity with that as well. I might also mention that he did meet with Bill McGee, who was our former licensed applicator, just to be sure that he would familiarize himself with the areas that he has to take care of.
Thank you. Sure.
Tony, thank you for that. Could you make a process where you can report to the rec committee on any fertilizer that gets put down, whether we need to stay off it or put some signs up there to keep people off it? I know certain chemicals go on, just to keep that line open. And hopefully it'll be ready for August 6th. I think that's what we're shooting for.
Will do.
Motion.
I would entertain a motion.
Oh,
Go ahead.
sorry. Motion to place the four department head reports on file.
Second.
Discussion on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. The next item of business is old business. First, a report on the review of for electric vehicles. This is continued from a meeting held in May. This is a report that's in your package from the administrator regarding himself, Counselor Mataronis, and me, discussions with power options, et cetera. Would you have any amplification of what's in the package?
Yes, I do. Power Options obviously is a consultant with the town, and they have provided quite a bit of information regarding the charging stations. And they certainly will get back to us. I've requested that they get back to us with additional information. Also, Chief Rains and Chief Patron have also provided additional information. They've, in specific, Chief Rains has done quite a bit of an extensive report on the electric vehicles. And certainly going forward, that's something that we may entertain. However, there's some reservations, some concerns as to what vehicles should be totally electric. And I may let the chief elaborate on that as well.
Thank you. So my research went into the two types of complete electric vehicles that are now being utilized or being tested or pilot programmed in the country. LAPD and NYPD, two of the biggest police departments in the country with two of the biggest budgets, obviously. They're experimenting with these vehicles. They're not full police vehicles. They're not being used for prisoner transport. They're not pursuit-rated vehicles. They're just pilot programs right now for those big departments.
And to be clear, those are all electric vehicles?
They're the
not
complete
hybrid?
electric. The Ford Mach-E, which Ford considers an SUV, I've seen a few in town. They're a sharp-looking vehicle, but I wouldn't consider it an SUV. And they also, the Tesla Model 3 is another vehicle that they're looking to use as a police vehicle, but both are in pilot programs. Obviously, they're more expensive than your normal combustible Ford Police Interceptor SUV. The only department in Rhode Island that now has an electric vehicle is Barrington. I spoke with Chief Correa from Barrington. They purchased the vehicle. It is not in service as a police vehicle. It's a supervisor's vehicle. Their top supervisor for each shift basically stays in their building for the day, for that entire shift. And if something comes up and that person needs to respond somewhere, they would take this vehicle. So it's either parked and plugged in, or it's going to a scene or something that needs the supervisor's assistance. They've run into certainly some issues with it. Speed is not an issue with it. The car is plenty fast enough. But again, Ford does not rate it as a police pursuit vehicle. There are very few, when you take a police car and you add the radio and the lights and the siren, there are mountings that have to be placed within the car. Those companies that create those mountings have not caught up with the dimensions of the interior of these vehicles. So when you put a radio in there, there's truly not a form-fitting mount for it. So they're kind of jerry-rigging things into the car. One of the issues they came up with was simply a police antenna for the radio. The entire roof is glass. So you have to adjust the radio antenna, has to be put someplace else for glass. So there's a lot of small things that have to be still worked out for that. Going forward, I looked into, now the Ford Police Interceptor SUV comes in a hybrid model. Simply, like most cars now, when you come to a stop sign, the engine shuts off. And then when you take your foot off the brake and you put your foot on the gas, the engine starts up again and moves forward. So in our case, we have vehicles on the side of the road, maybe they're running radar, observing traffic, doing something, and the vehicle would shut off. When the car determines that it needs to recharge the battery, it turns itself back on. Gas savings from Ford, they say anywhere between $3,500 to $4,000 a year. The cost of the vehicle is $4,000 more than your regular gas combustible Police Interceptor SUV. So we're already used to driving the SUV hybrid because it's the same exact car with just a different engine. All electric vehicles are not true SUVs. Here in Little Compton, we have more dirt roads and potholes than paved roads. I need SUVs for my officers to drive in, whether it be the beach, the dirt roads, the laneways, they need SUVs. We are not opposed to, and as a matter of fact, 2 council meetings ago, I requested to buy a hybrid vehicle. So we're going to eventually turn all of our patrol vehicles, our SUVs, into the Ford Police Interceptor hybrids. So hopefully we start, you know, the cost of the vehicle goes up a little because it is a hybrid, but we're saving gas, so eventually we'll be on the plus side of all of that.
Thank you. Questions?
Yeah, does the hybrid plug in at all, or does it all its own
No.
charging?
Does its own charging, just
also-
like.
Does dynamic braking and all that stuff
Correct,
to charge?
right, and then the parameters, the mechanics of the vehicle are all the same, all the inserts are the same, it's the exact same car, it's just the engine compartment's different. And we know the characteristics, our officers are driving the SUV already, they know the characteristics of the car.
So they handle the same?
Yes, exactly the same.
So the next vehicle we'll get is gonna be a hybrid.
We got one.
It's already
Oh,
ordered.
you've
We
already
ordered
got
it, yeah, I ordered it.
But
two.
I knew it was gonna be ordered, it's not here though.
No, it'll
No.
take 6 to
Yeah,
8
we
months,
approved that.
like everything else, it'll take a while to get.
The only thing I'd like to add to that is, as Tony said, President Musher and myself reached out to Power Options about putting in a couple of charging stations, and I asked them to get back to us with a cost analysis, because I didn't want to, and I told them bluntly, I don't want to put in a couple of charging stations that's going to cost the town money. They said, well, it's not going to cost the town money. I said, how about maintenance? Oh, well, there is maintenance on it. So as much as it's going to be used, we're going to be paying maintenance of $2,000 or $3,000 a year, and they're not going to get utilized. So that's what we'll wait to come back to make sure it's cost effective for the town.
Did they come back with a maintenance number?
No, they didn't. We're waiting for them to come back. I thought they would have come back by now, because we're not going to go forward. I don't know how much the maintenance is going to be. And I don't anticipate they're going to be used that much, because it's going to be out-of-town people that are going to be using the charging stations. I assume anybody who's got an electric vehicle in town already has a charging station in their house. So it's going to be for convenience for summer people or whatever.
Any other questions?
Mr. President, if I may, Chief Patron also provides some information regarding that, and he pretty much feels along the lines of Chief Raines. Administratively, that's possible. When it comes to the large apparatus, so you're talking about quite an expense, I should say. In some instances, it could be 1.5 million per vehicle, per apparatus.
For a fire or rescue apparatus?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Well, I think we're taking the right step forward in what we're doing, accommodating in a vehicle with which we're accustomed and can receive the transfer of equipment and get an idea of what limitations, if any, and I don't see any at this point, but let's find out, that electric vehicles or hybrid vehicles would ensue. All right, thank you. The next item of business is to receive from the administrator and myself the summary. It's not a summary, it's an articulation of all of the encumbered funds and balance changes that we are proposing be taken with respect to the end of the fiscal year. This is a common exercise that we go through as the year ends to decide how we deal with both underfunded entities as well as additional funds that we wish to encumber. So the sequence in the handout before you is what we're recommending that the council approve. And I would ask if there are any questions with respect to the 5 categories. One is transfers out of the contingency account to fund underfunded or shortfall accounts. Second, transfers from special funds to, again, fund those things which have shortfalls. Third is the interdepartmental transfers that are necessary in order to fund portions of a department's expenses that exceed need, using funds that are elsewhere in the department which are able to accommodate that need. Fourth, to encumber funds for future uses. And fifth, to transfer account balances to established funds for certain specific purposes.
Motion to approve is proposed.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded to approve as it is proposed. Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The next item is the Mayflower Wind Project. We have in the package a copy of the Portsmouth Economic Development Committee letter to Christopher Hardy, who is of Mayflower Wind, expressing that town, that is Portsmouth's, concerns over the proposed route for undersea underground cabling. And there's a copy of a PowerPoint presentation introducing the project to Portsmouth. It's referred to us to allow any written comments that we would wish to submit based upon our desire to comment on the proposal. Just quickly for the public, the decision was made to route the power that is taken from the turbines off of our shore, up the Sakonnet River, across through Portsmouth, and that's where the major impact is of, at least on the land side, across Portsmouth and up to the power station at Brayton Point in Somerset. And so it is that decision that has been a slight modification in their intention as to how to bring power from the windmills to the place of distribution, which is the former coal-fired plant at Brayton Point.
This wind farm is actually off Nantucket, so it's going to be quite a cable route. Bob and I are going to work on this for a response. There's a lady out of Portsmouth that's done quite a bit of work on it. She sent us over the questions from the Portsmouth Town Council, which are very good questions. I think we're going to incorporate that and put some of our own ideas. One of the problems I have is how deep this cable is going to be going up the Sakonnet River. How they're going to get around the Watson Reservoir that goes across, or the pipeline that goes across the river.
The Algonquin gas line as well.
Well, I mean,
There's
that's
2
obvious,
pipes.
yeah. I'm sure they're gonna know it's there. How are they gonna try to get around it? They're gonna go underneath it? They're gonna go above it? And how deep this cable is gonna be, because these cables, I was on the Coastal Resources Management Council team for the fishermen, when the proposal to put the wind farm in over at Block Island was there, and one of my chief questions was, do these cables put out electromagnetic currents? And they do. So if they put out big enough electromagnetic currents, then that's going to deter any fish or lobsters or whatnot that's in the river. So obviously the fishermen have a hard enough time already. So Bob and I are going to incorporate those questions. I think we'll be coming back to the council when we get answers to them. So
I would like to, I don't interfere, I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to charge the town administrator to contact attorney Marissa DeSatel regarding representing Little Compton intervening on the Mayflower Wind Project not to exceed $5,000.
what was that name? Marissa?
Marissa DeSatel.
Second.
Discussion on that.
So the reason for that is I think Little Compton needs a seat at the table with this. Just for a little background, Block Island back in 2018 had the same predicament, and their town beach where they laid the cables rose up, and they kind of cheaped out whatever developer that was. The cables were too close to the surface, so they've got a mess down there. So that was in 2018. So it's 2022. I know they're doing high directional drilling now, different from the drilling that they did before. So, you know, these developers will promise you everything. And I'm sure they promised Block Island everything in 2018, and they had an issue with it. I mean, I support wind energy, I support the project, but I think Little Compton needs a seat at the table. I think they need an attorney at the table to let us know what's going on there. The deadline is July 29th to intervene. Portsmouth has intervened. They have a lawyer. Middletown has intervened today at 1 o'clock. And their lawyer is Marissa DeSatel, who I mentioned before. You know, what I mean by a seat at the table, it's gonna give us input on the questions that you're looking for, construction schedule, the impact of the fishermen, impact of lobsters, and recreational boating. You know, so there's gonna be a barge out there, and what's it gonna be? I think Little Compton needs to have a voice and a seat at the table. So that's why I made my motion.
Just to be clear, we have been offered and indeed do have a seat at the table. That's how we know what's transpired. Your sense is that this particular attorney, because of her familiarity with this project, would be an advantage to us? Is that?
Who is our seat at the table?
We, the council, we have raised our hand and said we are interested parties. We were solicited at the outset as to whether we were interested or not. Most of the things that we've entertained have been not relevant to us. This is the first time that we've decided this is something that affects our particular livelihood, i.e., if it had gone the way it was going to go, which is the Western Passage, we wouldn't have had really an issue. But now that they've decided to change it to the Eastern Passage and the Sakonnet River, we're
Well, yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because in their application to the siting board, their alternatives is one through South Shore Beach. There's an alternative route through Sakonnet Point.
right.
So if these passages, if the state feels these passages aren't gonna work, they may go to the alternative. That's why I think we need somebody representing us at the table. You know, I don't think any of us are gonna be at the table to cross-examine those folks and ask them what's going on, so they can report back to us.
Just to be clear, that is why we have what we have in front of us, is because we are respondents to this and received that. We have not been active because we have seen that it is not affecting us. This is the time that it has affected us.
Yeah, with all due respect, I respect both, especially you down in Sakonnet, but, you know, environmental lawyer, I would feel more comfortable with one of the top environmental lawyers in the state representing us for, and it's not that much money. All the other attorneys are working for the developer. So you can't find many environmental attorneys right now in Rhode Island that will take this on.
As Gary knows, in 2018, I was engaged by Black Point Fish Trap Company in Narragansett because National Grid, when it was still National Grid, wanted to put the Block Island cable ultimately through Narragansett Beach. So, and that wouldn't have bothered my client. I mean, emotionally maybe, but not didn't. So what happened is there was a political upheaval, so therefore they switched it over to a section that Gary would know called the Brothers, which is where my client's fish trap company was. So essentially, they had a gigantic mitigation fund. So my client eventually said, I will give up one trap site for a confidential amount of money, but it was large enough for him to go out of business. He sold the other trap companies. These companies are generally represented by a guy named Jerry Petros, who we work with on a regular basis on these wind farm cases. In any event, we're pretty familiar with it. I know Gary is. I know you are. As a matter of fact, Gary gave me a lot of advice in that case, and that's how we eventually resolved it in a way that did allow the cable to go up through Narragansett, but not through the beach. real expertise on this.
I think the town council in Narragansett voted that down, if I'm not mistaken,
It did not go through the town piece, that's correct.
because the council voted it down.
Correct, so that's why it went through my client's property, which we were gonna stop it, and then through mitigation efforts, we resolved it.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I'm open to hiring legal advice, to hiring a legal professional that has relevance in this area to help us out if we think we need some advice on this.
Okay. Any other comments? Ready to vote?
Man, I don't think it harm to have Tony get a hold of her, maybe the solicitor, to find out what her thoughts are about this, okay? And get some information from her as to what she thinks gonna happen, or how much it's gonna cost for this town to piggyback onto Middletown. Just so that we are, I mean, if things start going south in the Secana River, obviously I don't wanna see it going through anywhere else, because there was a plan a while ago where they wanted to put a transmission line right through town of Little Compton.
Right.
And that wouldn't have been good, so I don't see it would hurt, maybe the solicitor and, town administrator just get a hold of this Marissa, Satel, and just chat with her.
The motion before us is to,
I can read it back if you want.
yeah,
Motion to charge the town administrator to contact Attorney Marissa DeSatel regarding representing Little Compton and intervening on the Mayflower Wind Project not to exceed $5,000. And I will repeat, the intervention has to be by July 29th. So we have short time to discuss.
okay. That then is the motion before us that's been made and seconded. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yeah, nay.
Okay, 4-1 with Counselor Golembeski voting nay. Thank you. The next item of business is new business, a request from the Community Dinner Committee, Barbara Passmore, who is with us this evening, the chair of that committee, to hold the third annual community dinner on September 11th, 2022 on the north side of the Commons.
Barbara, is there any conflicts with this? Is there anything else going on in town on this weekend? Is there any conflicts with this?
That weekend, there is going to be the community, the community center is having their anniversary party.
Oh,
However, in this winter, I don't know exactly the month, but in the winter, they approached me and said to me, we're thinking of having a party for their anniversary. When do you have the community dinner, and are you going to have it? I said, it's too early to tell whether we're going to have it or not. However, if we do have it, we always have it the first Sunday after Labor Day. The response was, oh, good, that's good to know. Then they said, can we have the community dinner and the anniversary together? And I said, I do not think that's a good idea. I think it should be a separate thing. So that was the end of it. Until now, I just hear that they're gonna have it the Saturday before our dinner on Sunday. However, I do not think that it's going to hamper either one of the activities at all. One is Saturday night and one is Sunday late afternoon, early evening.
motion to approve with all town, state ordinances here too. Concurrence with the chief of police.
I'd like to second it, and I love Barbara's correspondence. They're a lot different than the usually ones we get. So I enjoy seeing your correspondence.
The motion then is made and seconded to approve the request. Is there any further discussion? Chief, any issue with respect to our
We'll have
routine?
a detail assigned to the event as we do this. Every event that we're close to the north side of the commons, we'll have the detail officer out there with the the barriers, and it will come from the town detail line item from the police department. It won't be reimbursed to the town.
Thank you. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. The next item is a request from Lavinia Gadsden to discuss the tennis court infrastructure and the chances of having the tennis slant pickleball court replaced. Would you like to amplify on your request to us, or what would be your pleasure?
I'm representing a large group of people. There are about 45, 50 of us that play Monday through Friday on a regular basis for commissions on the basketball. I'm not exactly clear on when we replaced the courts, but I think it was 6 years ago, and we immediately experienced cracking. There has been some patching, and I have given you pictures of what the courts look like today, which are dramatic cracking, and where the former had grass growing in the cracks. So we have to address that issue.
The town councilor who has the liaison responsibility with the Recreation Committee is Councilor McHugh. Thoughts on that?
Thank you, Lavinia. As you know, I care deeply about the tennis court and the great work that we all did to replace them. So it's a difficult site down there with a lot of water. We've learned a lot from when we first replaced it 6 years ago. We do have our annual maintenance, which is going to happen soon. We have the estimate here in front of me. That would be going on the Rec Committee's agenda Monday, the 25th. I'm sure that will be approved, and then it will come to the council for their approval. And that consists of clean out and existing cracks with blowers, fill non-structural cracks with acrylic crack filler, reseal expansion joint cracks with acrylic crack sealer, fill all structural cracks with quart patch binder. Once cured, apply 1 to 2 coats of acrylic filler, restripe all 4 pickleball lines on the 2 tennis courts. So I think that's going to happen. It usually happens in our annual maintenance. So that's what I have to report to you. There's also a lighting component that was in the grant that we didn't receive a few months ago that I'm excited about, and we also have an estimate for that. That will be in discussions on the 25th at the Rec Committee meeting, and I imagine we'll be seeing that at the town council level soon. So it's going to take a lot to replace the courts. You know, we did it once, so we'll do it again. We'll look for more grants. We got the grant 6 years ago. The town matched it, and we had a great outpouring of support and generosity to make it happen. I think it was over $800,000. Bob, was that the number? Yeah. So we're gonna have to do it again. So I'm happy to dive into that. But we are gonna get annual maintenance on it very soon. You know, we're kind of at the end of the earth here. Nobody wants to come down and do any work, and I guess I've been hearing everyone's so busy that they can't come down. So it's gonna happen.
So what was the cost estimate on that maintenance?
I didn't want to spoil you for next meeting. It was $5,900 for everything I just detailed.
Well, that's tolerable. I don't think that'd be a problem.
Right.
Tony, there's no ARPA funds available. Can we use ARPA funds for that?
I could check into it. I'm not quite sure, although for that amount of money, we have enough in the budget that would cover that.
I think you might have been talking about a new court.
Huh?
Were you talking about a new court for ARPA funds? That's a good, I didn't think of that, especially with the COVID and trying to get people more outside. I think we should look into that. I don't know if you can, if we could stretch the definition of the ARPA funds, but I never thought of that. That's a good suggestion.
I know a lot of the ARPA funds are gonna go on the rehab at the town hall, which I think solely needs to be done. So I think the good majority of that's gonna go there, but I didn't know if there was any extra that might go for that, or I mean, as far as the new tennis courts, if you're talking $800,000 for new tennis courts, and then I think we'd have to have a committee, and maybe the people that use the tennis courts can start a fundraiser somehow, like we do in everything else in town, to try to get some money, and then the town could probably try to match that, but something like that, something that big's gonna have to go to a town meeting for that kind of funding.
You're speaking now of expanding the number of courts?
I don't think so. I think he's replacing the two that were there.
Replacing the ones that are there.
And that's how we did
If
it,
that doesn't work,
Re-excavating and,
yeah.
yeah.
and that's how we did it back
think
6 years ago.
I mean,
That will be
this is gonna
required.
happen every year where, because the sub-base wasn't correctly placed down there. and
Excavated.
Excavated correctly,
Right.
that's when these things shifts. I mean, a lot of garages in town have that same problem. Little Compton ground shifts, and when it does, things crack. So,
I just want to say that was our observation, that the courts were never right in the first place because there wasn't sufficient regrading the ground, because immediately what we saw were the cracks from where they were
Right.
previously.
The excavation that occurred at the basketball court was comprehensive, and all that was underneath was removed, and a new substrate was installed. And that surfacing was done by the same company that we're using and has been used for the tennis courts. So it's not a difference in how they did it, it's a difference in how the preparation was made. And to your point, because it was not done in a way that was similar to what was done with the basketball
So
court.
you're saying that the basketball court has not had that experience?
No, it has not had the cracking experience, that's correct. Yep. Yes, sir.
Question, when was the last time the annual maintenance was performed on the tennis courts? Because my perception is that there hasn't been maintenance, maybe some painting, but there hasn't been any filling of structural cracks or even surface cracks for at least the last year and a half or so.
Yeah, you might be right. COVID may have stopped that. You might be right. Because you couldn't use the courts they had. And we might have skipped that COVID year. So your recollection would be right. We do have that. When we applied for the grant, we had to put all our maintenance records in there. So it is in the grant. I don't have the grant in front of me, but that is all recorded.
Yeah, I think the spring, don't do respect, I think the spring rains this year didn't help, and without annual maintenance for a couple of years during COVID, I think that's accelerated the deterioration. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the way ahead then is for the Recreation Committee, where necessary, to come to the council requesting the expenditure of appropriated funds in a particular manner to conduct the maintenance that's required. My understanding is the company that provides that maintenance has not yet committed to a particular date, but that's what needs to happen next, I think, such that they can come in and do that crack repair, to your point, so that it's done on an annual basis if and until we are able to completely excavate the area and revamp the substrate and then put a new surface on top of it. I think that's the way ahead personally, but let's see what the company says.
So my takeaway is that we will maintain and repair and maintain the existing court, and for us to have a real solution, then we need to go back to us to raise money. Is that what you think? Can we get some kind of a match situation going on?
I don't know that answer yet. This is the first conversation regarding how we might fund such a thing. We certainly have the funds to do annual maintenance, and I would entertain a motion that we direct the Recreation Committee to expedite the repair of the tennis court surface using the standard practices. As to your other question, I would say we would need to decide what the magnitude of that effort would be. I think we can find that out from the repair that was done as a result of the field upgrade, in which, if I recall, there was a subcontractor who worked for the prime contractor and did that excavation. We could get a sense of what that cost was, and then I could answer your question more directly as to whether we have that kind of fund in those kind of funds in either the capital fund or, again, back to this federal funding that we could use for a one-time correction.
I,
Uh,
oh,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. Olivia, I don't know if you're asking this, but how do you come up with $800,000? Is that what you're asking?
No, what I'm asking is, do you look further into the next steps, other than just settling with a maintenance schedule or quality project?
I think that's up to the Recreation Commission to look into that, come back to the council with their thoughts. I mean, that's the body that's in control of this. I don't wanna step on their toes, say, well, we're gonna do this. And they said, well, we weren't even involved in it, because that's happened before, so.
Let me revise my solicitation then, with that in mind, to task the Recreation Committee with expediting the repair of the existing courts and to provide the council a recommendation on how to proceed with permanent solution to the condition of the court.
And I'll second that motion.
That's my motion, and it's been seconded by Councilor McHugh. Is there further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thanks for keeping after this. I think that's what's required in a case like this. Despite your encouragement, not all of us have joined the pickleball team, but we are interested in doing so, and will do so as soon as possible. Thank you.
So, you'll let the Rec Commission know on, Monday night what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next is to receive bids for South Shore Town Beach stormwater damage repair and improvement of South Shore Road, the joint bid process with the Beach Commission. And there are before us 3 bids for this work. The first of the bids is from Wilkie Excavating, and the total value of the bid is $55,795, 55795. The second of the bids is from Flynn Enterprise Incorporated. Reviewed the specifications, and in accordance with the specifications, a lump sum of $94,196, 94196. And the third response is from Narragansett Improvement Company in Providence, a total bid price of $99,763.97, 99763.97.
Well, obviously, Chris Wilkie's a local guy. I think the council tries to give work to local people. So, who put this bid package together?
Yeah. Well, this is one of those where we would need both bodies. to
Right,
opine.
concurrence, right. That this was gonna be exactly done the way, whatever the plans were to be done. He's done it previously, so.
Might I suggest that we could convey to the administrator our preference, and that he enter into discussions with the Beach Commission and return to us with a recommendation?
Second.
That's the motion made and seconded, that these 3 bids be rehearsed or be reviewed with the Beach Commission by the administrator, and that the administrator return to the council with his recommendation that incorporates the Beach Commission. All in favor of the motion? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. The next item of business is a request from Chief Raines for the council to adopt a resolution in support of non-emergency police powers mutual aid agreements, which would allow non-adjacent municipalities to collaborate.
Motion to allow the chief to go forward with this.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there discussion? Any comments, sir?
Well, just to, I think this is a long time coming in the state. Currently, we have an MOU with our bordering towns, Tiverton and Westport, to share police powers in emergency situations. Chief Lynch from Bristol presented some legislation earlier in the year that was passed in regards to getting everybody on the same page in the state. For example, the Bristol Fourth of July parade, he needs 105 uniformed police officers for security on that day alone. So now he will be able to pick from a Hopkins police officer, a Compton police officer, a Cranston police officer. They could all go there and work the detail, have the same police powers that they do in their jurisdiction, with this MOU. Through the Chiefs Association, they decided that each chief would ask for a resolution, and then we'll have a signing of the MOU, the statewide MOU, in probably late September, October. So going forward, this is gonna be good for the parade. URI needs a lot of people to graduation, and any other big event that comes up, water, fire, things like that.
And our liability was Gary from,
The trust was involved in the drafting of the MOU.
okay.
So they're
Aye.
All in favor then of,
If we do that, please.
oh, please.
He really needs you to adopt the resolution, not just allow him to go vote. So
Motion to adopt the resolution
I'll second it.
as presented by Chief Raines.
I'll second it.
Okay, wait a minute. You gotta back up one, take one off the table, put another one
All right,
on the
let's-
table.
I'll
back up.
withdraw my motion.
And I'll,
Withdraw
yeah,
your
I'll,
second.
yeah, I'll withdraw my second,
Okay,
yeah.
so now you can make the one about the resolution.
Make a motion to sign the resolution, adopt the resolution that was proposed by Chief Raines for an MOU between cities and towns in Rhode Island.
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for the correction. The next item of business is to consider adoption of a resolution which would prevent issuance of new cannabis-related licenses in the town unless and until the electors of the town vote to approve such actions. This is a situation in which the implementing legislation has an opt-out provision in which towns can put before their populace a question as to whether they wish to have in the town cannabis-related facilities and licenses.
So this would go on the November ballot.
This resolution that we would adopt would precipitate that action ultimately, but yes, what we need to decide, the five of us, is do we agree that this is something that we want to put on the ballot before the people? And then the
There's
process.
a lot of things in this town that I would like input from by vote from the whole town, instead of being on our shoulders, I can tell you that, but I'll make that motion that we adopt this resolution.
I'll second it.
All right, we need to talk.
Okay.
The resolution does not propose to physically put it on.
Correct. The
I
resolution
just
is
want
the
that to be
resolution.
clear. The resolution is just saying that it would have to go before the voters before
Right.
you could make these adoptions or create these licenses. So I don't want you thinking that this resolution agrees that you want it to be on the ballot.
Okay, so how do we get it on the ballot?
You make a motion.
Well, let's deal with the
Okay, go
motion
ahead.
before us, which
Yeah.
is to approve this resolution as it's written, which is a resolution of the council on behalf of the town. Any further discussion?
I'll second if nobody seconded it.
It was-
Or did Andrew already
I
second?
think it was
Okay.
seconded, right. Any further discussion? All in favor of this motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Now, the question then becomes, given that that we have approved this resolution, what is the step by which we, that we need to take in order to propose it for inclusion in the ballot?
You gotta move really fast.
Right.
Certified local questions need to be back to the Secretary of State's office by October 10th. You have a meeting on the 4th, I would have to have a posted meeting of the Board of Canvassers to accept that and them to certify to the Secretary of State's office. So you would need to have the wording of the stroke that you want created, much like we did with the charter review questions. You would have to vote that on your August 4th meeting, and then I would have to have the Board of Canvassers maybe on the following day vote there, so we can get it up to them right away.
So it can be done in early August.
Yes.
Would you work with?
That's mine for action, right. We'll work together to create
So we
that.
need a
It looks like
motion on that.
it looks like they proposed the wording here and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's, It's not out of whole cloth that we have to create this.
Can we still talk about, I mean, we don't have a motion on
Sure.
the table, but I think it's, just based on the law that was passed in May, I think it's highly unlikely that we will see any recreational cannabis operations in Little Compton based on the number of operations that are allowed per district that they've created through this
Right.
law. So
Right.
I'm totally fine putting this to the electorate to see, but I just don't think
We
that.
have working in our favor, if I'm representing your opinion correctly, the fact that because of our size, it is not likely that we will be assigned one of the available license
Yeah, I would
lots.
say size and location. I don't think it's gonna be a reality here. I mean, I would support it, you know, if it was,
I'd just
but,
like to see what the town thinks about it.
you know, but,
myself.
I don't think we're gonna see it because I think East Providence, Newport, Andrew, Middletown, Warren, Bristol, that's the zone we're in.
Barrington, East
Barron,
Providence.
yeah, and there's 4 that they can, per region.
Right.
So I don't think we're even gonna, yeah.
Never say never.
So you'll come back with a formal,
At the next meeting, a proposal for how we proceed with the placement on the ballot. Did we take that vote?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Next is a recommendation from the administrator to support the request of the police chief to purchase a variable message signboard to replace the current aging signboard.
motion to allow the chief of police or give authority to town administrator to give authority to the chief of police to go forward with the purchasing a signboard.
Second.
Discussion on that.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, that's a lot of money, huh?
Yeah, it is a lot of money.
$18,000.
The
Wow.
board does a lot, it does more than just messaging, it's also, it's like everything else, you can control it with an app. We do all our traffic studies with our current signboard, this will also allow us to do that, speed recognition. We'll have an indicator of speed, for us as well. The last one was purchased in '06, I believe, by DOT. There is a $1,500 a year subscription for the software,
Saw that, yeah.
and that is paid, the first year we pay for that, and then every year after that, it's paid for by DOT.
Yeah.
Each town is allowed 3 subscriptions for that, so.
So we're gonna keep the old one?
We're gonna keep it running as long as we can.
Okay.
We're starting to put a little money into it, and,
Yeah.
and it's getting to the point where the next big repair might be the end of it.
I know a lot of electronics is cheaper to buy new stuff. I mean, I know on the boats, if it's a radar, it's gonna cost $4,000 to repair. They've come down so much, $6,000, you get a brand new one.
This one's gonna be, obviously, it's newer, it's more efficient, the solar panels are much better, it's gonna last longer during the day for us. Right now, we're not getting a full charge out of the battery, and the solar panels are kind of failing on us.
Does our current unit have the speed radar detector in it?
It does.
But it doesn't display it.
Doesn't display it. This one actually also has a small little blue and red light bar, so as you go by it, accelerated speed, the lights flash.
So you're
just as a little, yeah,
So you currently you collect the data just for reference?
right, we're currently, I get a lot of phone calls and emails about they're speeding on my roadway, especially now in early summer.
Yeah.
We're currently doing one on Long Pasture. It's been a great tool for us, because over the last, I'd say 3 years, I've probably done 6 or 7 of them. And the reality is we're doing a good job and cars aren't going as fast as people think. And once they see the numbers, it's great to have those numbers. And I just think people aren't used to cars, when they're standing on the roadway and cars go by them, they always say, oh, they're flying. It's not always the case.
A noisy car doing 40 can seem like it's flying, and you can have a Tesla go by and it's doing 100 and it's not making a sound, so.
If it kicks up dust, it's going 100.
Yes, sir.
No, I'm just curious about the fact that it records the speed and tells the messages back. You see so many of the new electronic signs like that where it will have the speed limit, then it'll tell you what your speed is.
The smaller ones?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've looked into those. This this is separate and above, this is the larger one that's on a trailer that we bring around to different locations. We have looked into those smaller ones to be posted. I look at those kind of like streetlights in Little Compton, you know, so
Oh my
I'm a
goodness
little leery of
gracious.
presenting that.
Ooh,
Still
don't
might be
mention that out too loud.
That's why I didn't.
No, I
And
don't
we
know.
shut the message board off at night. It's on a timer, so it doesn't flash at night, unless there's some kind of construction that it needs to be run.
Did we vote on that?
We
All
got,
in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The next item is communication request from United Congregational Church to use Town Landing on August 28th at 10 a.m. for summer beach service.
Motion to approve with all ordinance adhered to.
Second?
Might I suggest that those ordinances would include police, fire, and insurance? Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Second is, communication is the abatement list.
Motion to approve the abatement list as presented. All these are from some guy that I guess he left town, so it appears that he kind of never kept up with his taxes, which I'm hoping the town administrator keeps up with delinquent taxes in the future before they get 4 or 5 years old. So a motion to approve as written.
Second?
Motion made and seconded to approve the assessor's request for abatement. Any discussion? All in favor?
aye.
Thank you. And a letter from the planning board resubmitting recommendations for code amendments for stormwater management and new language to set a process for code use review when a use is not specifically listed. The chair of the planning board is here if you wish to comment, sir, or if there are questions for him.
Well, we were just reacting to the request from the building official that you sent us. We sent some recommendations.
Yes.
And they've just sort of been in limbo. And so we reviewed them again and felt that the best thing was to have a public hearing and go through the proposed language and consider it or not consider it. So we kind of got lost on one particular issue, and my conversations with the building officials, he felt that these were still important to address.
Okay. Again, to reemphasize, this was the building official suggesting to us that we make certain code amendments, which we referred to the planning board, and they came back to us with a recommendation.
Doesn't the state require water mitigation on buildings already that he has to adhere to?
The state does, so and our zoning for solar panels addresses stormwater mitigation. So he wanted it to be consistent within our own code and also not to have areas of surprise when builders or architects come to him. It's pretty straightforward. For our own, almost every plan in the planning board sees where Bill Smith has
A rain garden.
So it all depends on the person.
Right.
To be comfortable having consistency.
I mean, I know the building official wants direction, but also there's gonna be a update on the comp plan. And instead of having a public hearing and put new ordinance together, my feeling is we should wait till this should be incorporated into the comp plan update of next year.
I agree, Gary. That's a good idea.
One of the problems I have, 600 square feet is a building 20 by 30, which is basically a garage, so we're gonna have to have a rain garden for a garage.
Well, my initial question is, I understand this for like a substandard lot, because you're gonna affect your neighboring runoff, but what if you've got a 2-acre lot and your house is in the middle of it? You can dump the water on the ground, I guess it could run off some other way. Is this putting an extra burden on the homeowner? Is this an extra cost for someone building a house? I don't know. Maybe they're already doing this, Mike,
My understanding from, Peter was that this is part of the state code right now. So we're bound by it, it's just a question of whether we're incorporating it in our own code, and then when people come to him, he, has it in his own regulations.
Well, can we get, do we need any more comment from Peter on this? I mean, I don't know, I feel like,
I think, Andrew, at the time, if you're doing, what Gary suggested to it, and as a larger project, that would be better, because these things are coming up kind of frequently at our zoning hearings, so by that time, we would have a real good time to talk to Peter, and I could say, well, this is what happened in this zoning case. Oftentimes, we get a zoning case, but Peter generally denies.
Okay.
Yeah, so you could put a package together. These are the problems we're having in the zoning board. We need to make ordinances to address these so that it's written down so there's no gray areas.
That's right.
So is there a charge we should put to the building official, for example, to return with any information, or?
no, I don't think so.
Just because, even after last night's zoning hearing, we'll have to talk to Peter about a couple of things, so it's.
You wanna let them, give the solicitor authority to talk to Peter about this and with the building official about this, and
I guess what I'm asking is, what is the next action that needs to be taken? A decision as to whether or not a code amendment is appropriate?
Yes,
Is
that
is
correct.
that what comes next?
But then, and then it would be grouped with the larger code amendment,
Okay.
activity.
So might we say to the building official to propose such a code amendment? In other words, what I'm trying to avoid is we get to the point of the periodic comprehensive plan review, and it's, oh, wait, we need to get an input on this. Should we have it pending and sitting there in keeping with your suggestion that we incorporate it in the next revision to the comp plan? Should we task the building zoning official with returning to us with a proposed language for such an amendment?
Does Carol have a suggestion?
Carol's biting her tongue at the moment.
Okay. It's not
The-
evident.
The update of the comprehensive plan is generally not code updates for this type of stuff.
Right.
It's actions, it's goals, it's procedures. Peter Maderas, building official, zoning official, has already given you his recommendation. It's gone to the planning board, it's gone to the planning board twice now, and been brought back to you, and they've given their recommendation. And for some reason, you don't want to take it to the next level and propose some form of an amendment. And I personally have a hard time trying to understand why you want to put it off again.
Okay. Their recommendation, that is the planning board's recommendation of a month ago, was to add a requirement for any new or added structure over 600 square feet to implement a stormwater mitigation plan. And the following was voted. The stormwater mitigation plan included. And your point is that the action that I'm suggesting has already occurred.
Yes.
That is, they've given us such a recommendation.
And from what I understand, it is an existing state law. All Peter is asking for is for the town to codify it into our town code. So that there's no confusion between contractors and property owners, that they also in Little Compton need to abide
we've
by.
got to put this to a public hearing anyway, if
I
we're
know,
gonna.
Yeah.
that's why I'm getting so,
So I don't, we can make the
I'll
decision during the
withdraw my,
public hearing.
did I make a motion?
I don't think you did, Gary. I don't think you did.
I move we just send this, we bring this to a public hearing. And-
That's what they're asking us to do, am I right?
Right.
That's what they're asking,
they're asking you.
Yeah,
so you,
I'll make a motion, we bring this to a public hearing.
and I'll second that motion.
By this, you are speaking to both recommendation.
Yeah, because I have some questions, but I think they're more appropriate in a public hearing than they are right now.
I agree.
You know, I don't understand, just a quick one off the top is why aren't they actually referencing the state law? It's not actually referenced in there. So something like that I'd want to see put in there, you know, as per, this is what we have to do. Anyway, so there's the
So
motion.
the motion is made and seconded to bring two items, the stormwater mitigation plan proposed ordinance language and the accessory use code modification, both of which are recommended by the planning board, those two items to public hearing. And that public hearing would be
By
when?
code, it's supposed to be, these are both zoning, so I have to advertise for 3 weeks before your meeting, so.
Be the second
1, 2,
meeting of
3, it'd have to be August 18th.
August 18th.
So I'll amend my motion for a public hearing on August 18th.
Any further discussion?
Happy to second your amendment.
3 meetings or
He
3?
doesn't have to.
Go ahead.
3 meetings, 3 times.
For zoning amendments, it has to be in the paper 3 weeks.
Oh, 3 weeks.
I think the planning board has done what we've charged them with and come back with the recommendations, so I see no reason why we shouldn't.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. The next item is the consent calendar.
Motion to place the consent calendar on file unless someone wants to talk about it.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And the payment of bills.
Motion to pay bills as written.
Oh, okay.
Either or, doesn't matter.
Use Gary, I'll second.
Motion made and seconded to pay the bills as outlined. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. This completes the matters before us. I declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you.